Kendra sat in the dimly lit living room, her hands trembling as her phone buzzed relentlessly. Every notification felt like a ticking time bomb, and the world outside seemed to blur as emotions ran high inside her home. Fans across social media were in a frenzy, speculating about her next move. And gossip columns couldn't stop spinning the narrative. Kendra was facing the ultimate crossroads in her relationship with Jock, the man she once trusted with her heart. Rumors of betrayal, secret conversations, and unseen confrontations had been swirling for weeks, and now, the tension had reached a boiling point. The whispers were relentless. Could she forgive, or was this the moment to walk away for good? The family was left divided, friends were taking sides, and even Jock's loyal supporters seemed uncertain about where his loyalties truly lay. Emotions ran high as Kendra paced the room, torn between love and self-respect, each thought colliding with the next like waves in a storm. I don't know if I can do this anymore, she muttered under her breath, her voice cracking. Behind closed doors, arguments had already erupted, accusations flung like daggers, tears staining furniture, and apologies that felt empty and rehearsed. Every interaction seemed loaded with suspense, each conversation a potential bombshell that could shatter what was left of their fragile relationship. And now, as cameras, fans, and family members anxiously waited, the question on everyone's lips remained the same: will Kendra stay with Jock, holding on to love despite the chaos? Or will she finally summon the courage to walk away, leaving everything and everyone behind? This is the moment that could change everything. The decision that could ignite a storm of reactions far beyond what anyone imagined, and the world is watching, holding its breath, waiting for Kendra's final answer. Kendra's mind was a whirlwind of confusion and heartache as she tried to process everything that had happened over the past few weeks. The tension between her and Jock had escalated to a level that neither of them could have anticipated, and every interaction now seemed loaded with suspicion and unspoken accusations. That morning, she had woken up to a flood of messages, some from friends pleading with her to stand her ground, others from family members warning her to think carefully before making any decisions. Each message felt like a weight pressing down on her chest, reminding her of the stakes and the chaos that had become her life. Jock, on the other hand, had been distant, his charm replaced with a cold, guarded demeanor that made Kendra question whether he was still the man she had fallen in love with. Their once warm home now felt like a battleground, where every glance and every word could spark another fight, and the air was thick with tension. Earlier that week, a confrontation had erupted in the kitchen over something trivial and unfinished dinner and a misplaced phone, but it quickly spiraled into a full-blown argument that left both of them in tears, each blaming the other for a series of betrayals that had accumulated over time. "I can't do this anymore, Jock," Kendra had shouted, her voice breaking. "I can't keep pretending everything is fine when it's not," Jock had countered, his own frustration evident. "You think I wanted any of this? You think I enjoy watching us fall apart?" The emotions were raw, unfiltered, and painfully real, leaving neither of them with any easy answers. Friends and family had started to weigh in, some siding with Kendra, emphasizing that she deserved clarity and respect, while others urged patience, insisting that relationships went through rough patches and that love could survive even the most challenging moments. But the problem was that Kendra no longer knew what love meant in this context. The secrecy, the whispered conversations, and the sudden outbursts had eroded the foundation of trust that had once been unshakable. One afternoon, she found herself sitting on the couch, staring blankly at her phone, scrolling through social media updates from fans who had become invested in her life. Every comment seemed to carry a subtle judgment, and she felt both supported and scrutinized at the same time. "Why can't people just mind their own business?" she muttered, though deep down, part of her craved their opinions, hoping for some guidance, some validation of her feelings. The phone buzzed again, this time with a video call from her sister. "Kendra, you have to be honest with yourself," her sister urged, her voice full of concern. "Are you staying because you want to, or because you're afraid to leave? You deserve clarity, not confusion." Kendra's heart ached at the words. She knew her sister was right, but admitting that she had been holding on out of fear felt like a betrayal of her own self. As she hung up, a new notification appeared, a private message from Jock, asking her to meet him in the living room. Her stomach tightened, and she hesitated for a long moment, debating whether to respond. Eventually, curiosity and a lingering hope that he might have a reasonable explanation overcame her apprehension. She walked into the room, and Jock was sitting there, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. "Kendra," he began, his voice softer than it had been in days. "I know things have been rough, but I need you to hear me out before you make any decisions." She folded her arms, leaning against the wall, her eyes wary. "I'm listening, but this better be important," she replied, her tone calm but guarded. Jock took a deep breath. "I never meant for any of this to happen. The arguments, the rumors, the tension. It was never supposed to get this far. I messed up, okay, but I'm trying to fix it. I need you to know that." Kendra felt a pang of emotion. The man she loved, flawed as he was, still stood before her, vulnerable and sincere. Yet the weight of past betrayals pressed heavily on her. She wanted to believe him, but every instinct told her to be cautious. "I want to believe you, Jock. I really do," she admitted, her voice trembling. "But trust isn't something you can rebuild overnight. Not after everything that's happened." The conversation continued, filled with moments of silence, heartfelt confessions, and occasional flashes of anger. Jock admitted mistakes that he had previously denied, revealing hidden aspects of his actions that Kendra had only suspected. Each revelation cut deep, but also carried a strange relief. Finally, the truth was being laid bare, unfiltered and undeniable. Emotions ran high as they navigated the delicate balance between love and resentment. Kendra's mind raced, torn between the memories of better times and the painful reality of the present. She remembered the laughter, the late-night talks, and the moments when she had felt truly seen and loved by Jock. But those memories were now shadowed by hurt, suspicion, and the fear that history might repeat itself. Outside, friends gathered, some hoping for reconciliation, others ready to witness a dramatic fallout. The house seemed to echo with anticipation, as if the walls themselves held their breath, waiting for the next twist in this unfolding saga. A knock at the door startled Kendra, and when she opened it, a close friend stood there, eyes wide with concern. "Kendra, you have to decide soon," her friend urged. "People are watching, and your heart deserves clarity. Don't let fear dictate your choices." The words struck a chord. Kendra realized that her indecision was not just affecting her and Jock but also everyone who cared for her. She felt the weight of responsibility pressing down, forcing her to confront the reality she had been avoiding. As evening approached, the tension in the house became palpable. Jock sat quietly, waiting for her response, while Kendra paced the room, battling an internal storm of doubt, hope, anger, and longing. Every step felt heavy, every breath labored with the weight of the decision she knew she had to make. Finally, she stopped in the center of the room, facing Jock with a mixture of determination and vulnerability. "Jock," she began, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotion inside her, "I need to know why I should stay. Why I should trust you again, when everything feels so broken." Jock met her gaze, his own eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Because I love you, Kendra, and because I'm willing to fight for us, even if it means facing the hardest truths about myself. I don't want to lose you, not now, not ever." The sincerity in his voice was undeniable, and for a moment, Kendra felt the familiar warmth of affection, the pull of love that had first drawn her to him. Yet, the shadows of past mistakes lingered, whispering doubts and fears that she couldn't easily silence. The night stretched on, filled with intense discussions, confessions, and fragile attempts at reconciliation. The air was thick with emotion, as though the house itself was holding its breath, waiting for the verdict of Kendra's heart. As the clock ticked closer to midnight, Kendra retreated to her room, seeking solitude and clarity. She sat by the window, staring out at the quiet neighborhood, and reflected on everything that had transpired, the arguments, the apologies, the hidden truths, and the lingering questions that refused to be answered. She knew that whatever choice she made would not just define the course of her relationship with Jock, but also shape her own sense of self-worth and future happiness. The weight of the decision pressed heavily on her, yet amid the confusion and heartache, a spark of determination began to emerge. She realized that this was her moment, a chance to reclaim control over her life and choose a path that honored her feelings, her values, and her heart. The room was silent except for the faint hum of the city outside, yet Kendra felt a storm of emotions raging within her, a storm that demanded resolution, clarity, and courage. She knew that by morning, the world would expect an answer, and the choice she made could ignite reactions far beyond what she imagined. And so, with a deep breath, she began to weigh her options. Considering the love she still felt, the hurt she could not ignore, and the uncertain path that lay ahead. This was more than a simple decision. It was a turning point, a defining moment. In a relationship that had already weathered so many storms, and the outcome would set the stage for the next chapter in Kendra and Jock's tumultuous journey. Every heartbeat seemed amplified, every thought magnified by the intensity of the moment. She knew that once she made her choice, there would be no turning back, and the consequences would ripple through her life, her family, and even the fans who had become invested in their story. The anticipation was almost unbearable, yet amid the fear and uncertainty, a quiet resolve began to form. Kendra understood that this decision was hers alone, and that whatever path she chose would need to honor her truth, her feelings, and her right to find peace, whether with Jock or without him. And as the night deepened, the house remained cloaked in a tense silence, holding its breath for the revelation that would inevitably come, a revelation that promised heartbreak, relief, or perhaps an unexpected twist that neither of them could have foreseen. Kendra woke the next morning with a heavy heart, the events of the previous night replaying endlessly in her mind. Every conversation, every tear, every unspoken word seemed to demand answers she wasn't sure she could give. She knew that today would be pivotal. Friends were expecting updates, family members were impatient, and social media buzzed with speculation. Even the smallest action she took could ignite waves of gossip and judgment. Jock, sensing the urgency, had stayed unusually quiet throughout the morning, a tension hanging between them like an invisible wall. The air in the house was thick with anticipation, the kind that presses down on your chest and makes each breath a conscious effort. Kendra's thoughts kept circling back to their conversations over the past few weeks, the heated arguments, the accusations, and the moments of fleeting tenderness that reminded her why she had fallen for him in the first place. But those flashes of love were now entangled with betrayal and doubt. She recalled the night when she had discovered a message on Jock's phone, a seemingly innocent exchange that had set off a chain reaction of suspicion and confrontation. Her emotions had erupted in a storm of anger and heartbreak, leading to a dramatic showdown that left both of them questioning the foundation of their relationship. "I can't believe you didn't tell me," she had shouted, the words trembling with both fury and hurt. Jock had tried to explain, pleading for understanding, but every explanation seemed to deepen the chasm between them. Now, faced with the possibility of making a final decision, Kendra felt both empowered and terrified. She moved through the house, in a haze, checking the mail, scrolling through messages, and avoiding Jock's gaze. Each step a reflection of the inner turmoil that refused to subside. Her friends called repeatedly, some urging her to stay, others insisting she leave. Each piece of advice pulled her in different directions, intensifying the confusion that clouded her judgment. By midday, Jock finally approached her, his expression a mix of desperation and determination. "Kendra," he said softly, "we can't keep living like this. I need to know where we stand. You can't keep running from this decision forever." Kendra paused, her hands trembling as she met his gaze. "I know," she admitted. "I've been trying to figure out what I want, but it's so hard. Every time I think I have an answer, I feel like I'm betraying either myself or you." Jock reached out, gently taking her hand. "I get it, I really do. But I'm asking you to be honest. Not for me, but for yourself. What do you truly feel?" The question hung in the air, heavy with implication. Kendra's mind raced through memories of their relationship, the laughter, the intimacy, the shared dreams, and the moments of passion that had once defined them. Yet, each memory was tinged with the shadow of doubt, the fear that the pattern of hurt might repeat itself. She remembered the scene from last week, when Jock had tried to explain his side of the story to her parents, only to have the conversation spiral into accusations and tears. The family had been left divided, with some siding with Kendra and others trying to defend Jock. The tension had been unbearable, and Kendra realized that the influence of family opinions, while well-intentioned, had complicated her ability to make a decision based solely on her own feelings. As the afternoon sun streamed through the windows, Kendra retreated to her bedroom, seeking solitude and clarity. She sat on the edge of her bed, her thoughts racing, the weight of her decision pressing down like a physical force. The fans' reactions, the social media commentary, and the looming judgment of friends and family all seemed to crowd her mind, making it difficult to focus on what truly mattered, her own happiness and peace of mind. She remembered a conversation with her closest friend from the previous night. "Kendra," her friend had said, eyes wide with concern, "you have to ask yourself one question. Are you staying because you love him, or because you're afraid of starting over? The answer will tell you everything." Those words lingered, echoing through her mind as she reflected on her own feelings. Kendra realized that she had been holding on partly out of love, but also out of fear of loneliness, fear of regret, and fear of the unknown. She had built a life with Jock, shared experiences and memories that were difficult to abandon. And the thought of walking away felt like tearing a piece of herself apart. Yet, staying in a relationship that no longer offered clarity, trust, or peace also felt like a slow erosion of her spirit. As evening approached, Jock knocked on her bedroom door, his voice tentative. "Kendra, can we talk? Just for a few minutes." She nodded, her heart pounding as she opened the door. Jock stepped inside, closing the door behind him. "I know, this isn't easy," he began, "and I know I've made mistakes. But I want you to know that I'm committed to making things right. I can't change the past, but I can try to be better for you, for us." Kendra studied his expression, searching for sincerity, for the truth behind his words. "I need more than words, Jock," she replied. "I need actions. I need proof that what happened won't happen again. I need to know that we can truly move forward without fear and doubt shadowing every moment." Jock nodded solemnly. "I understand, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes. Therapy, counseling, open communication, I'll do it all, if it means we have a chance." The intensity of his commitment was both reassuring and overwhelming. Kendra felt a mixture of hope and skepticism swirling inside her, making it difficult to separate desire from reality. As the night deepened, they sat together, discussing boundaries, expectations, and fears. The conversation was emotionally charged, with tears, moments of silence, and occasional flashes of anger. Both of them confronted painful truths, acknowledged their own shortcomings, and expressed the love and longing that had persisted despite the chaos. Outside the window, the city lights glimmered like distant stars, casting a soft glow over the room and adding a cinematic backdrop to a night filled with tension and raw emotion. Kendra's mind oscillated between hope and fear, love and doubt. Realizing that the decision she faced was not just about staying with Jock, but about reclaiming her own sense of self-worth and emotional security. She understood that whatever path she chose would carry consequences, not only for her relationship but also for her inner peace, her family dynamics, and the public perception of their story. By the time midnight approached, Kendra felt a sense of quiet determination. She knew that she couldn't delay any longer, that the moment to act had arrived. The house, which had been tense all day, seemed to hold its breath, as though aware of the significance of the decision about to unfold. Every heartbeat was amplified, every thought magnified by the intensity of the moment. She realized that this choice, whether to stay or walk away, was hers alone, and that it needed to honor her truth above all else. As she prepared to face Jock with her decision, a strange mix of fear and empowerment coursed through her veins. She understood that life was unpredictable, that relationships were complex, and that love could be both fragile and resilient. Yet, amid the uncertainty, a quiet clarity began to emerge. Kendra knew that whatever path she chose, she would be taking control of her narrative, asserting her agency, and defining the course of her own future. And as she took a deep breath, ready to reveal her heart's decision, the tension in the room became almost unbearable, a moment suspended in time, filled with anticipation, emotion, and the promise of revelation. Every word, every gesture, every glance in the next few moments would carry the weight of her choice, setting the stage for the next chapter in a saga that had captivated everyone around them. The night promised resolution, drama, and perhaps an unexpected twist that neither Kendra nor Jock could have foreseen. Leaving both their hearts and their future hanging in a delicate, suspenseful balance, the tension in the room was almost tangible. As Kendra took a seat across from Jock, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, the silence stretched, punctuated only by the occasional hum of the refrigerator and the distant sounds of the city outside. Both of them knew that the coming moments would define everything. Every word spoken, every emotion expressed, and every glance exchanged could tip the balance toward reconciliation or heartbreak. Jock leaned forward slightly, his eyes searching hers for any hint of reassurance or hope. "Kendra," he began softly, "I know it feels like we're at the edge of something we might not come back from, but I need you to hear me. I've never wanted to hurt you, ever." Kendra's throat tightened. She wanted to believe him, wanted to reach across the table and let herself feel the warmth of his sincerity, but past betrayals whispered caution in her ear. She remembered the nights spent crying alone, questioning her worth, and wondering if love was truly enough to withstand the weight of lies, secrets, and unresolved conflicts. Her voice trembled as she responded, "Jock, I need to know that things will be different. That the patterns that hurt me won't keep repeating. I can't keep patching a relationship that feels like it's falling apart. Jock nodded earnestly, his hands trembling slightly. I understand, and I'm ready to do whatever it takes. I'll go to counseling, we'll have honest conversations, and I'll be transparent about everything. No more secrets, no more lies, I promise you that. The sincerity in his tone caused a flicker of hope to ignite in Kendra's heart. But she quickly reminded herself that promises could be broken, and words alone were never enough to rebuild trust. Outside, the house was buzzing with subtle energy. Friends and family were anxiously waiting for news, unable to resist the pull of the drama unfolding behind closed doors. Every text, every call, and every glance through the windows seemed to magnify the anticipation. It was as though the world had paused to witness the moment Kendra would make her choice. Kendra took a deep breath, trying to center herself amidst the chaos of emotions. Jock, it's not just about promises, she said, her voice firm yet vulnerable. It's about seeing real change, consistent actions over time, and a commitment to building something stronger, not just trying to fix what's broken. Jock reached out, gently placing his hand over hers. I know it won't be easy, and I know I've given you reasons to doubt me, but I want to fight for us, Kendra. I don't want to lose what we have. Her mind raced through the memories of their relationship, the laughter, the passion, the quiet moments of intimacy, and she felt a wave of longing. Yet, she also recalled the arguments, the tears, and the moments when she had felt abandoned emotionally. The push and pull of love and caution left her in a fragile balance, teetering between hope and fear. I need time, Kendra whispered, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I need to see that this isn't just words, Jock. I need proof. Jock nodded solemnly. Take all the time you need. I'll be here, showing you, not just telling you. The evening stretched on as they sat together, discussing boundaries, expectations, and the changes needed to move forward. Their conversation was punctuated by silence, punctuated by intense emotional revelations, and occasionally interrupted by Jock's desperate attempts to convey his sincerity. Kendra felt a mixture of frustration, hope, and uncertainty swirling inside her. She realized that the decision to stay or leave was not simply about love, it was about her own self-respect, emotional safety, and the possibility of building a healthier future, either with Jock or alone. Later that night, she found herself alone in the kitchen, sipping a cup of tea as she tried to make sense of her thoughts. The room was quiet, the dim light casting shadows that seemed to mirror the uncertainty in her heart. She reflected on conversations with friends and family, on the moments when Jock had shown genuine remorse, and on the internal battle between holding on to what she loved and protecting herself from further hurt. The phone buzzed again, a text from her closest friend, Kendra. Whatever you choose, make sure it's for you. Don't let fear or pressure decide for you. Those words resonated deeply, reinforcing the realization that her decision needed to honor her own truth. The hours passed slowly, each minute amplifying the intensity of her emotions. When Jock returned to check on her, he found Kendra sitting quietly, lost in thought. Kendra, are you ready to talk? He asked gently. She looked up, meeting his gaze with a mixture of determination and vulnerability. I think I am, she said softly. The conversation that followed was a delicate dance of honesty, emotion, and vulnerability. Kendra expressed her fears, her needs, and the conditions under which she could see a future with Jock. Jock listened attentively, acknowledging each concern and committing to tangible actions that could rebuild trust and strengthen their bond. As midnight approached, the house seemed to hold its breath, the suspense almost unbearable. Kendra felt the weight of her decision pressing down, knowing that the choice she made would ripple through her life, impacting not only her relationship with Jock, but also her emotional well-being and the perceptions of those around her. Finally, after hours of intense dialogue and reflection, Kendra felt a sense of clarity emerging from the chaos. She realized that whatever path she chose, it needed to be grounded in honesty, self-respect, and a commitment to emotional health. With a deep breath, she turned to Jock, her heart pounding. Jock, she began, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions inside her. I've made a decision. But before I tell you, I need you to understand something. I'm doing this for me, not for anyone else. I need to honor my feelings, my worth, and my future. Jock nodded, his expression a mixture of anticipation and anxiety. Kendra continued, the words coming with both courage and vulnerability. I'm willing to give us another chance. But it has to be different this time. I need transparency, respect, and consistent effort. If you're not ready to give that, I can't stay. No matter how much I love you. Jock's eyes glistened with tears, a mixture of relief and emotion flooding his face. I can do that, Kendra. I promise you. I'll do whatever it takes. We'll face the challenges together, and I'll prove that I'm committed to making this work. For the first time in weeks, a sense of cautious hope filled the room. Kendra felt the pull of love rekindling, tempered by the wisdom gained from past mistakes. She knew the road ahead would not be easy, that trust would need to be rebuilt gradually, and that patience and communication would be essential. Yet, for the moment, there was a fragile sense of possibility, a glimmer of hope that the love they shared could survive the trials and tribulations that had threatened to tear them apart. As they embraced, the house seemed to exhale, releasing the tension that had gripped every corner. Friends and family, though still anxious, could sense a shift in the atmosphere, a tentative step toward reconciliation and healing. Outside, the city lights continued to twinkle, casting a serene glow that contrasted with the storm of emotions that had defined the past weeks. Kendra knew that the coming days would be filled with challenges, moments of doubt, and opportunities to reaffirm their commitment. Yet, she also understood that by facing the truth, expressing her needs, and making a conscious choice grounded in respect, she had taken the first step toward a healthier, more authentic future. And as she and Jock sat together, processing the magnitude of their decisions, Kendra felt a sense of empowerment. She had confronted her fears, navigated the turbulence of emotions, and made a choice that honored both her heart and her mind. The night held promise, a delicate balance of hope and caution. As Kendra prepared to navigate the next chapter of her journey, a chapter defined not only by love but also by resilience, clarity, and the courage to stand firm in her truth. The following morning brought a new wave of intensity as Kendra and Jock faced the aftermath of their emotionally charged night. The air in the house was thick with anticipation, as though every wall and hallway held the echoes of past arguments, whispered apologies, and unresolved tension. Kendra moved cautiously, her thoughts still swirling from the previous night's revelations, weighing every possible outcome, and questioning whether her decision could truly hold against the challenges ahead. Jock, sensing her hesitation, approached with a mixture of caution and hope. Kendra, I know today is going to be hard, he said softly, his voice betraying the anxiety he felt. But I need you to know that I'm fully committed. I'll do whatever it takes to prove that this time can be different. Kendra met his gaze, seeing both sincerity and vulnerability there. I want to believe you, Jock. I really do, she whispered, but believing is different from trusting. Trust has to be rebuilt, step by step. Their conversation that morning was heavy with emotion, filled with confessions, questions, and the subtle tension of two hearts navigating a fragile path toward reconciliation. Friends and family began to check in, some stopping by unannounced, others sending endless messages. Kendra felt torn, grateful for the support, but simultaneously overwhelmed by the pressure. Each interaction added a layer of complexity to her already tumultuous feelings, forcing her to balance her own emotional needs with the expectations and opinions of those around her. Meanwhile, social media had begun buzzing, with fans speculating about her choices, analyzing snippets of videos, and sharing theories that ranged from hopeful to devastating. Kendra felt exposed, as if her personal turmoil had become a public spectacle, a narrative dissected by strangers and friends alike. Do people not realize this is my life? She muttered under her breath, scrolling through the endless stream of comments. Yet, beneath the frustration, there was a strange validation, a recognition that her story mattered, that her choices were being noticed, and that the world was watching her navigate the emotional labyrinth she found herself in. As the afternoon approached, Jock suggested they take a walk outside, away from the scrutiny of friends, family, and fans. The fresh air offered a temporary reprieve, a moment to breathe and reflect on the path forward. Sometimes, stepping away helps us see things more clearly, Jock said, offering his hand. Kendra hesitated for a moment before taking it, feeling a spark of the connection that had first drawn her to him. The walk was filled with moments of silence, punctuated by occasional conversations that were tentative but sincere. They discussed boundaries, expectations, and the steps necessary to rebuild trust. Each word was chosen carefully, each pause laden with the weight of past experiences and future possibilities. Kendra found herself confronting the fears that had haunted her, the possibility of repeating old patterns, the lingering doubts about honesty, and the uncertainty of whether love alone could sustain them through the turbulence. At one point, she stopped, turning to face Jock with intensity. "I need to know that this isn't just about saving our relationship for appearances," she said, her voice trembling. "I need to know that you're truly committed to change, not just trying to keep things from falling apart." Jock's expression softened, and he nodded earnestly. "I am, Kendra. I'm not asking you to believe blindly, but I am asking for the chance to show you, through actions, that this time can be real. That this time, we can be better." Her heart fluttered at his words, a mixture of hope and caution battling within her. The tension of weeks of uncertainty seemed to coalesce into a single, pivotal moment, a moment that demanded honesty, courage, and clarity. Returning home, they were met with family members who had been anxiously awaiting news. The room was charged with emotion, a mixture of anticipation, skepticism, and the palpable fear of disappointment. "Kendra," her mother began, her voice both stern and caring, "whatever you decide, make sure it's what's best for you. Don't let anyone pressure you, not Jock, not us, not even the world outside." Kendra nodded, feeling the gravity of the responsibility she carried. The room seemed to shrink under the weight of expectations, and every glance felt like a test, every whisper a judgment. As evening descended, Kendra and Jock continued to navigate the delicate dance of reconciliation. Conversations flowed between hope and fear, between confessions and promises, and between the desire to hold on and the instinct to protect oneself. Emotions ran high, with tears, laughter, and moments of silence that spoke volumes. In one particularly raw moment, Jock confessed a hidden regret, a truth he had been avoiding for weeks. "I realize now how much my actions hurt you," he said, his voice breaking. "I took things for granted, and I failed to see the impact of my choices. I want to make it right, but I need you to let me." Kendra felt the weight of his words pressing against her chest, the honesty cutting through layers of doubt. She responded, her voice soft but firm, "I want to believe you, Jock, but belief isn't enough. I need to feel it, see it, and live it with you." The night unfolded with a series of intense, heartfelt dialogues. Kendra laid bare her fears, insecurities, and needs, while Jock demonstrated vulnerability, accountability, and a genuine desire to repair the fractures in their relationship. Each conversation, though emotionally exhausting, became a brick in the rebuilding process, a painstaking construction of trust, transparency, and mutual understanding. By the time the clock neared midnight, a fragile sense of equilibrium began to emerge. Kendra felt a mixture of relief and apprehension, understanding that the journey ahead would require consistent effort, patience, and unwavering commitment from both sides. Yet, in this moment, there was hope, a glimmer that love, when combined with honesty and resilience, could survive even the stormiest of trials. As they sat together in the quiet of their living room, the city lights casting a gentle glow through the windows, Kendra reflected on the weeks of turmoil, confusion, and heartache. She realized that her decision to engage in this process, to confront fears and uncertainties head-on, was an assertion of her agency, a commitment to honor her own emotional truth, and a declaration that she would no longer allow fear or indecision to dictate her life. Jock's hand found hers again, and in that simple touch, there was a promise of effort, honesty, and a willingness to grow. Kendra knew that the road ahead would not be easy, that trust would need to be rebuilt through action rather than words, and that the shadows of past mistakes would occasionally surface to challenge them. But for the first time in weeks, she felt a cautious optimism, a sense that love, when combined with accountability and transparency, could indeed find its way back. And as the night enveloped them, filled with the quiet hum of the city and the lingering tension of unresolved emotions, Kendra understood that she had taken the first step toward a future defined not by fear, but by choice, a choice grounded in truth, self-respect, and the possibility of a love reborn stronger, wiser, and more resilient than ever before. The next morning arrived with a strange sense of calm, almost deceptive after the emotional roller coaster of the previous nights. Kendra awoke early, the sunlight streaming through her bedroom window, casting a warm glow that contrasted sharply with the storm of emotions still swirling in her mind. She felt the weight of anticipation pressing down today. She knew would bring moments of clarity, confrontations, and perhaps even unexpected revelations. Jock was already awake, moving quietly in the kitchen, making coffee and attempting to maintain a semblance of normalcy. The aroma filled the air, oddly grounding amidst the chaos of unresolved feelings and looming decisions. Kendra watched him for a moment, noting the tension in his posture, the way his shoulders slumped slightly, and the fleeting glances he cast in her direction. It was clear that he, too, carried the burden of uncertainty and the knowledge that this day could redefine everything between them. She took a deep breath, trying to steady her own racing thoughts. Breakfast was quiet, each sip of coffee punctuated by moments of reflection. Kendra's mind replayed past conversations, accusations, and apologies. She recalled the heated argument from 2 weeks ago, the one that had left both of them in tears, yelling over things that now seemed trivial yet had symbolized deeper fractures in trust and communication. The memory of Jock's remorseful expression and trembling voice returned vividly. "I never wanted to hurt you," he had said, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. I didn't know how to stop it." Those words had lingered in her mind, a blend of truth, desperation, and vulnerability that made the decision she faced even more complex. After breakfast, Kendra suggested they take a drive, a neutral space to talk without the pressure of home, friends or family observing their every move. The city passed by in a blur of lights and buildings, mirroring the whirlwind of thoughts in Kendra's head. "Kendra," Jock said after a few moments of silence, "I know I can't erase the past. I know I've made mistakes that hurt you deeply, but I want to do whatever it takes to rebuild our trust. Not for appearances, not for anyone else, just for us." She listened carefully, feeling the sincerity in his words, but also the familiar twinge of skepticism. "I hear you, Jock," she replied, her voice soft but steady. "But rebuilding trust isn't about promises. It's about consistent actions, patience, and real change. Can you commit to that?" Jock reached over and took her hand, squeezing it gently. "I can, and I will. I know it won't be easy, but I'm ready to prove it." Their drive continued, filled with moments of silence and tentative conversation, each pause pregnant with the weight of unspoken emotions. Kendra felt a mix of hope and anxiety, knowing that while they had made progress, the journey to true reconciliation would be long and arduous. Upon returning home, they were met with a flurry of texts and calls from friends eager for updates. Kendra felt the pressure mounting the world outside. Their walls seemed to demand answers even before she had fully processed her own feelings. In the afternoon, a family meeting was convened, bringing together both sides in a tense gathering. Emotions ran high as parents, siblings, and close friends weighed in, offering advice, opinions, and at times, veiled criticisms. Kendra listened carefully, nodding politely, but internally, she knew that the decision had to be hers alone. The family, sensing the gravity of the situation, remained cautiously optimistic. Though some expressed lingering doubts about whether reconciliation was truly possible, Jock, for his part, remained composed, addressing concerns with sincerity and a willingness to acknowledge past mistakes. The dialogue was intense, at times heated, but ultimately honest, revealing the layers of complexity in both Kendra and Jock's relationship. As evening descended, the house settled into a tense quiet, punctuated by the occasional sigh or whispered conversation. Kendra retreated to her room, reflecting on the day's events. She recalled the arguments, the confessions, the small moments of tenderness, and the unwavering determination she had observed in Gyeok. Her mind oscillated between hope and caution, love and fear, longing and the instinct to protect herself from further hurt. Finally, after hours of contemplation, she felt a sense of clarity beginning to emerge. She understood that staying in the relationship meant demanding transparency, mutual respect, and consistent effort. Walking away, on the other hand, would require courage, acceptance, and the willingness to face an uncertain future alone. Kendra realized that her choice would not be defined by love alone, but by the interplay of trust, emotional safety, and the acknowledgement of her own worth. The night grew deeper, and Jock, sensing the gravity of her internal deliberations, approached her room once more. "Kendra," he said softly, "I know you've been thinking, and I don't want to pressure you. But I want you to know that, whatever you decide, I respect you, and I'll accept it. I hope we can move forward together." She looked up, meeting his gaze, feeling the weight of the moment settle between them. Her heart pounded as she processed her emotions, weighing past hurts against the potential for a renewed connection. Finally, she spoke, her voice steady despite the storm within. "Jock, I've thought long and hard. I know the road ahead will be difficult, but I want to give us a chance on my terms. We need honesty, transparency, and a commitment to change. If we can do that, then maybe, just maybe, we can rebuild something stronger than before." Jock's eyes filled with tears, relief and gratitude evident on his face. Kendra, I promise you I'll do whatever it takes. No more hiding. No more lies. We'll face the challenges together, and I'll show you every day that my commitment is real. In that moment, the tension that had gripped the house for weeks seemed to ease slightly. Friends and family, though still cautious, sensed a turning point to fragile, yet promising, step toward healing and reconciliation. Kendra and Jock shared a long, tentative embrace, a mixture of relief, love, and mutual understanding, binding them together. Outside, the city continued its quiet rhythm. Unaware of the emotional storm that had been weathered within the walls of one home, Kendra knew the journey ahead would be filled with challenges. But for the first time in weeks, she felt a glimmer of hope, a belief that love, when paired with accountability, patience, and honest communication, could survive even the most turbulent storms. The night carried a sense of tentative optimism, a fragile promise that the trials of the past could be transformed into lessons, growth, and a deeper understanding of one another. And as Kendra and Jock sat together, reflecting on the day's revelations and preparing for the future, they both understood that the path ahead would demand effort, resilience, and unwavering commitment, but it also held the potential for a love reborn, stronger, wiser, and more enduring than ever before. And there you have it, the dramatic journey of Kendra and Jock has reached a turning point, but the story isn't over yet. As you've seen, emotions ran high, secrets were confronted, and every word exchanged carried the weight of a relationship on the edge. Kendra made her choice, and while it reflects courage, honesty, and a desire for growth, the road ahead is far from predictable. Relationships, especially those tested by betrayal, doubt, and emotional turmoil, are never simple. Every action they take from this moment forward will define not just their bond, but the kind of love they can create together. Will trust fully rebuild? Will past wounds resurface at the most unexpected moments? Only time will tell, and that's what makes this story so gripping. Now, it's your turn to weigh in. We want to hear from you. What do you think about Kendra's decision? Are you rooting for her to stay with Jock and rebuild what they once had? Or do you think walking away would have been the stronger, healthier choice? Do you believe true love can survive such trials? Or is